What is happening, everybody, man? Thank you guys tuning in to another episode of the Agent to CEO podcast, which is the masterclass in becoming the CEO of your life and business. And I was a little distracted, Leanne. I know Morgan, we got a little pressure here. We got Morgan hanging out with us today. So
we got our hometown boy back here.
Got our hometown boy hanging out with us. So oh man, first time we've had Morgan Wallen on the show. So thank you for that. I'm not even sure if Jim brought him along when Jim was on the show. So
it took a lot of strings to pull, but
yeah,
it happened.
And I heard he was his getting around his busy schedule was also really important.
It was tough.
So what is happening? I'm really excited to dive in with you because of really the whole context behind Agent to CEO, really, about the evolution. And like I said, really the whole podcast objective and goal is to just be an entire masterclass body of work of what it takes to continue to grow and evolve and become the best version of ourselves and the best version for our business. And just taking that progression and that growth. And, like even for me on, the Agent to CEO journey, it was a lot of, in the background, the integrator before integrator was even a thing, operationally stepping in. And then, the next just kind of evolution for us was for me to step into really head of company and really embrace that, CEO mentality and role, and being able to see you grow and step into that role is pretty awesome. And I want to get into that just as you're how long have you been in the gym ecosystem? I mean, what, going on almost a decade now?
This year is a decade. Yeah,
that's just wild to even think about. So Leanne, give a little context, take us back to, kind of the beginning, because there's so many lessons in seeing that evolution. And then we'll obviously get into the story of how, it came to be for you to step in and truly, like, this role was meant for you, right? And truly embracing it and running with it. But yeah, take us back in time and we'll navigate through the story and pull, all of the lessons along the way out of it.
Yeah, so I story's not too crazy, but I came from the auto industry and I worked at a very, very high volume car dealership here in town. The number one in the region. We were slinging 300-400 cars a month every single month. And this was a decade ago. And I was one of 3 that kept the internet department going. So essentially I was a BDC rep. So if you came into the car dealership and you didn't leave with the car that day, it was my job about 10 minutes after your foot left the lot. It was my job to get you back on the phone and get you back in, whatever it took. So I did that for 4 years. And that's where I really, kind of learned what I needed to move into real estate. It's funny, we joke all the time, but I first had my eye on real estate about 2 years into the car dealership gig. And Jim posted way back in the day, posted a job for an inside sales agent, and started reading it. And, I was like, this is exactly what I'm doing right now, but it pays better. And I would much rather, walk around saying that I help sell houses than cars, because nobody wants to be a, no offense, grimy car salesman. So I applied and I didn't even get a call back. So I was a little butthurt. I was like, let's have some great candidates or something. So let it roll off my shoulders, went on. About 6 months later, the job ad comes back up again, brand new. And I apply a second time. This time I get a call back and do an interview. Everything's great. We get to the part where I think a job offer's coming, really excited. And they're like, you know what? Like, we really think you would do better being an agent. You have the personality profile to be an agent. I'm like, okay, well, tell me more about that. And this is as I'm holding my 6-week-old baby, and her dad just moved to Australia to play baseball. And I'm sitting here holding this baby, and they're like, okay, yeah, so you got to go get your license. Okay, how long does that take? What does that cost? And all of a sudden, all these dollar figures are going off. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I can't do that. So I decline and I go back to my life at the car dealership. So 4 years later, here I sit, and one of the girls that actually sold cars at the car dealership comes to me and she's like, I'm leaving. And I was like, oh, that's, where are you going? I got a job with Jim Griffin over here. I was like, you are kidding me. They hired her to be their ISA. And that whole thing lasted, she was there for about 6 months, and they came to her and they were like, do you know anybody else that would be great at this? And she's like, actually, I do. So here I emerge again, and she ends up leaving, so I end up becoming the only ISA. But we joke that it took me almost 4 years and 3 attempts for Jim to actually trust me and hire me. And now, a decade later, he can't get rid of me.
Exactly.
Like in all senses, he can't get rid of me. So
That's
so went in and was the only inside sales agent for quite a while, and not just the only inside sales agent on the team. I was the only inside sales agent in our entire market. All the way, our closest area to us that had an inside sales agent on a team was Knoxville. So about 2 hours west of us.
West of us.
Yes, never eat soggy waffles. West of us. So that was I was on an island.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Especially, thinking back then, because what are we? So this is in 15, 16, 17 time frame right in there. Yeah. So, kind of looking at that, and obviously that term had been kind of thrown around and inside of the industry, but it still was not like mainstream normal. And it still isn't really today in the regards of how do you truly optimize and make that function really profitable, especially for, if you've got the head of company team lead that's deep in production, how do you navigate that?
Yeah.
So Leanne, what was like being in the car industry versus real estate? Like, what were the biggest like learning curves or similarities or biggest differences when you got in?
Everything. So I'll never forget my first day. I went in and went in all excited, think I was going to get all this training, and I'm sat down in front of a computer, and I'm given a login for, at the time we used Boomtown. And so I'm given a login for Boomtown. I was very familiar with CRMs. That wasn't a problem to me. So I could log in. I got the general function of the CRM. But I'm looking at it, and here I sit with this list of like 10,000 leads. And Jim's like, okay, well, I have to go to 4 listing appointments. I'll be back at 4:30. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. He's like, I'll be back at 4:30. So I'm sitting, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And he's like, well, I don't know. That's why I hired you.
Yeah.
So I came into it with absolutely nothing in place.
And some great leadership in place too, right? Hey, yes. Great guidance, great, script. Yeah. Here's the playbook. Here you go.
Yeah. So it was a complete figure it out moment. And it was, over the course of the first year that I was in it, it was kind of a struggle figuring out, okay, I did this at the car dealership. How do I transition that here? Because we've never met with these people that I'm calling. These are brand new. So I'm not trying to get them back in now. I'm trying to get them in for the first time. And then not knowing the industry itself, not knowing, our value prop, what we offered at the time. We didn't have those words on the wall per se. We didn't have our value proposition. We didn't have what we stood for. And so it was a learning curve, but I really do think that it set up the path for me to just master it my own way.
Yeah. And it's almost like, it's kind of like a blank canvas that you have walking in, and, knowing Jim and Jim's leadership style. I mean, that's probably the best situation that you could have ever walked into, is just almost a blank canvas.
Yeah, I made it 6 months before he threatened to fire me. So I think that was, knowing how Jim is, I think that was pretty good.
That is really good. That's really good. Yeah. So no, I love that. And, making that jump, getting in, obviously, there's a lot of similarities, but also a lot of differences. Just obviously transferring from, one industry to the other. When you step back and kind of reflect on, that time, when you look at it, was it a blessing kind of having a lot of free to kind of figure it out and kind of pave the way, or did it like slow things down for you to be able to get up to speed and really, when I mean by get up to speed, by being able to really be productive and really, your efforts resulting in things that were actually going to help, the business move forward.
I think it was definitely a blessing, and it taught me more about myself than I think I would have ever learned just coming in with, okay, step one, do this. When I was at the car dealership, it was very much, I mean, we had a script that was taped in front of us, and it was like a if this, then that. And you couldn't put your own personality on it, you couldn't stray from it. They had it down to a science. The consumer is either going to say this or this to this question. Here's where you go here, here's where you go here. And we had everything to a T. We knew how many calls we were supposed to make an hour. We knew basically, what every hour of our day was segmented. And we knew what was expected of us. I think coming into this, it taught me a lot about myself. It's, going to figure it out. And that's one of my key strengths, is that I'm resourceful. I can figure just about anything out except for technology. Still working on that one. But I can figure just about anything out. And before coming into this, I was not like that. I had never had to be like that. So
Yeah.
it was definitely, it was a blessing. And then it helped when other positions became available on the team, when there wasn't somebody sitting there. I naturally became the first person that they would come to say, hey, would you mind to do this for a couple months? Would you mind to figure this out? And it really just helped me climb the ladder, per se.
Yeah. So as you were kind of going through that, and like what were some of like walk through kind of your process of getting this set up and learning and things that you still use to this day, that kind of your process to fine tune and improve on the systems of the business and whatever we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so one of the first things that I started picking up on, I at the time we were with Keller Williams, so I would make a lot of the Keller Williams resources available to myself. And I started very quickly learning about the 135 and the 30, 60, 90. And those are things that even to this day, whenever I am starting something new, whenever there's a new position on the team, that we're a new leadership, opportunity, anything like that, I still take it back to a 135 and a 30, 60,
Mhm.
90. Just last month when we relaunched our ISA division in a different way, it's based off a 30, 60, 90 and a 135. So those two tools right there, especially the 30, 60, 90, I think for me, being able to break it down and saying, okay, what is a realistic metric that I can reach in 30 days, and then grow off that for the 60, and then grow off that for the 90, versus all these things coming at you at once. You're like, I'm responsible for all of this. That for me just helps me visualize it, break it down, and feel like I'm on track.
Yeah, no, it's such a great, formula. And KT last week, we were spending a lot of time. That's where I was just drilling everybody on like, what is the one major constraint, right? Going
Mhm.
through theory of constraints, going through where the bottleneck is. Is it in our traffic? Is it in our conversion? Is it in our fulfillment? If it's in one of those three, what segments of the three? And then that's exactly right. That's our one main problem. What are the three strategies to remove it? And then what are all the things that have to happen in order for that to be true, to really be able to execute on it? So like, I mean, you've been a part of KT, so like literally the
Mhm.
first day and a half, I mean, we're just hitting it from every angle to make
Oh
sure
yeah.
that you're locked in and the one main thing that we're trying to overcome. And then it's, to your point, what are the three strategies that can really unlock that and move things forward. When you look at when you came in and kind of the ISA role, what has changed since when you started in that role to what the role is today?
It is nothing like it was 10 years ago. And so much so that, now that I have kind of my feet back in that with training some new people, if I were to try and hold them to the standards and the workflow that I used a decade ago, it would not be good. A decade ago, it was all about how many dials can you crank out, right? How many times can you get that phone to ring? So there were weeks when I was doing my minimum when I started 2 years ago was 200 dials a day, and they were hand dials. I'm not talking a dialer where you load a bunch of numbers in. I am pick up the phone and dial. I had to do that minimum 200 times a day.
Yeah.
And if I ask people to do that today, it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of resources, because the way that the consumer has evolved with the way they want to be communicated with, most people don't want to be called anymore. I mean,
Yeah, break that down. This is so good, because I think this is a lot of the challenges and struggles that a lot of agents are getting into, and especially the businesses that have been built off of pick up the phone and make dials and have conversations that have not been marketing focused. They've been sales focused, but they haven't been marketing focused. And, obviously I'm sitting here in Matt and DJ's office. They are of that kind of mindset of obviously being in the place ecosystem. That's where they push first, right? So we look at cold outreach, dials, conversations, more of a ground, almost old school ground and pound with no marketing strategies involved. So
Yeah.
really like unpack all of that and what that means. And then, like you said, consumer behavior, nobody answers the damn phone. And then plus with all of the security updates on this thing, you're not getting through to anybody anyways. So
Exactly.
old school, break down what we mean by what we say ISA. What does that mean? And then where has it evolved and what does it mean today?
Yeah, so your ISAs, your inside sales agents, they are the people that are taking those opportunities that are inbound. So your website registrations, your sign calls, your office calls, if you do anything with Google GLS, that they're taking those inbound opportunities and they are working those towards appointments for the agents. Smile and dial used to be that was the verbiage that you would hear back, when I started. Smile and dial, smile and dial. That's completely dead. I know, me personally, I have to clear out my voicemail probably once a week because I don't answer the phone. They always say, who's the one person you see on social media, tag the one person that if you were dying, you would never call. That's me. If you're dying, if you're being chased, please text me. I will respond, or better yet, email me. But do not call me. So I have to clear it out. And I know that personally, if I'm like that, I'm a millennial, so I was born late 80s, and millennials make up like 45% of the home buyers right now. So if I think like that, I know most of the people my age are the same. So 45% minimum of your buyer pool, your lead pool, does not want to be called. So why are we still pounding the phones? And just like you said, with the technology, they pick you up as spam, especially if you're dialing from within a CRM. Your number is getting marked as spam. And it's really funny because the CRMs won't tell you, and you will sit there, you'll try and call out, and you'll try and text out, and you're blocked on the back end. That consumer's never actually even seeing you come through. So we turn the approach around. When I first started and I built the rhythm of how to work a new lead, it was always call first, and you called within the first 5 minutes. 2 minutes was ideal. 5 minutes was, you had 5-6 minutes max to do a phone call. Well, now it's immediate text. You send me a lead, it's, hey, is this John? Or, hey, John. Text right away. They respond back, yeah, who is this? And then you start your roll. We are now, with all of the technology at our hands, with AI, we are an instant gratification society. If I'm filling out online inquiries, just the other day, I was trying to find a event venue space to host a dinner for the team. And I'm online looking to see where I can book online, because I don't want to pick up the phone and call to book a room to do a dinner in. I just don't. So I based where I booked off of who had online booking. That's what a lot of the consumers are doing as well.
Got it. So are they seeing, so how important is obviously speed to lead, be it technology with text, SMS? Where does the automation and the actual human step in? Or does it matter? And can it all be automated And as long as kind of the path and the response knows how to engage and ultimately take them where are we trying to take them to?
Yeah, so speed to lead now matters more than ever because the average consumer, by the time that they register on your website, they have statistically registered on at least 5 websites. And I saw a statistic the other day that it said 88% of people who use a real estate agent use the first one they made contact with. Not the best, not the most experienced, not the one that had the most Google reviews, but the first one that they made contact with. So speed to lead is more important than ever. Like I said, instant gratification. If you don't give them the answer, they're going to get it somewhere else. And you've got to get it to them fast. You can most definitely have automation in the beginning, and we had an automation where it would send out that text, "Hey, is this John? Hey, John," or just John question mark. That way, you respond back and assume, because if I say John question mark and you say yes, well, I know it's you now. You can't lie and tell me it's a wrong number. So then you start your conversation. But I don't think that it can be fully automated. I do think there has to be a human element because people are looking to be understood. They're not looking to be sold to. And I don't think that automations can fully understand. So when we have a client, we're trying to move them into one of 3 buckets, essentially. They're either going to meet with an agent, they're going to be nurtured, or they're not interested.
So the function has completely evolved, completely changed. How are you basing success in this role, right? Like, how do you guys gauge this function? And is it more of a sales development, or like, is it the ISA that's actually closing them in this role? They're closing them. The only thing they can close them to is an appointment, right? So
Yep.
like, what does success look like in this role? And why is this role still relevant or important?
So when I do it, I measure off of met or kept appointments, not set appointments, not contacts, not dials, met appointments, because I'm looking for quality. In the past, when we would do it and we would pay off of set appointments, you would get a bunch of stuff that they were just setting an appointment for the sake of setting an appointment. And it was more or less wasting our agents' time, and it was burning our agents out. And then when the agents would get an opportunity, they weren't taking it as seriously. So now it is based off a met or kept appointment. So our ISAs have a standard each month of met kept appointments. I don't care how many you have to set to get there. I don't care if you set the minimum amount you're supposed to and they're all kept and you're at 100%. That's great. But it is offset and are met and kept because our agent is, duly responsible for, getting in there as well. But that has to be a good appointment to be set to kept and met. If we're just going off set, I could be setting an appointment for somebody who's like, yeah, I'm not going to buy for 3 years, but I'll entertain you. We know our agents aren't going to nurture that. That's going to be something that's going to be dead anyways. I don't base it off of closings because that's not something that's in our ISA's wheelhouse. Once they give that appointment up, then that's the agent's job. So then we base met, kept to closed off the agent, and we do bonus the ISA for that. But that's not where their metrics come in.
Yeah, I think it's, they have to influence, the decision, things that we know to be true. Obviously, they have to be able to do something and more than where technology is not able to come in and do that right now. For most technology will suffice, right? However, with this role, just gives you more reach, more at bats than
technology falls short here with the matchmaking. So with ISA, I like to call them matchmakers. They're not just people that make calls and set appointments. They are essentially matching a potential client to the best agent to provide the best outcome. So when you have technology and it's round robining or it's just assigning it to whoever's name the lead came in, right? You could get a lead in our system that was assigned to you a year ago. You never tried to reach out to that person. Maybe they're an investor. You're like me. You don't know numbers from letters. And because the system says it's in my name, it goes back to me or goes back to you. And that's not the best fit for that client. That's not the best fit for that agent. So with having an inside sales agent that truly knows the agent's strengths, and that knows little things down to, hey, John lives in Kingsport, called this person, he's ready for somebody to come over in the next hour to look at his house. Why would we bring an agent from an hour across town to go meet with him? Why wouldn't we use our local expert and our local agent? So those are things that having an inside sales team, that trumps technology any day. You're going to have a higher percentage of set to met when you have somebody that truly understands how to make a match. People want to work with people that they like at the end of the day.
Yep. Absolutely. They do. Absolutely. They do. So no, I think there's the human side of it, everything that's there, the organization. Uh, AI is closing in fast. So like, what would be this is for other people listening in, or even if you are a team lead and making that hire, and I think this is good for other inside sales to be thinking about, what do you have to do in today's climate with the technology to make yourself not to be replaced, right? How do you what do you bring to the table to where technology is not going to replace you?
So you have to listen. And little things, for example, yesterday, one of my ISAs had an appointment that she had scheduled for one of our agents for a listing. And she texts me and she's like, hey, just letting you know, I had to move the appointment that was for today with Greg. I have to move that to next week. And I was like, okay, that's great. You don't need to tell me that. But okay. And she was like, well, we have to move it because the seller's brother just died. So in that moment, we kind of stopped. We're like, oh, okay. We sent flowers.
Yeah.
We sent a card.
Yeah.
And those are little things that, AI is going to go over and AI is going to miss. So we stopped, we paused. AI doesn't do that. We let them know, hey, we're thinking about you and we're here when you're ready. So that's something that it's not going to take. And, at least for a while, at least for the next decade or more, there's always going to be a generation that is weary of AI. I know we're in a very small area. We're in a very, rural country area.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people here that will not use AI. They don't want any part of it. If we had an AI answering service and they called us, they would immediately disconnect and not do business with us because they don't want their information sold. They don't want it. So at least for the next decade or more, everybody's going to have a pocket in their market that still wants a human.
Yeah, I mean, it is the little nuances. It's the emotional connection, the emotional side of things. I think is super key. So it's going to be really interesting. The whole evolution as it is, right? I'm sure there'll be things happening that we're not even thinking about right now. I mean, we still know, the principles of connecting, like you said, listening, being a good human, really listening and helping, the other really uncover what it is that they're trying to accomplish, the goal to the goal. So for you, Leanne, obviously kind of overseeing that consistency and conversion side of things, but talk us through kind of that evolution for you, right? Your journey in, right, took them forever to finally get you in.
Yeah.
And then now they can't get rid of you even if they wanted to.
Yep.
So like talk through that evolution for you in the learning curve and maybe some of the big milestone jumps for you. Hey, I accomplished this, I learned this, but kind of walk through that whole journey before, getting into the seat that you're in, a couple of years ago that we moved into now.
Yeah. So I, of course, did the ISA thing, and that ended up being very successful. At the time back in, 2016, 2017, when it was kind of at its height, I was very connected in the ISA community with the top of the top and did very well. So from there, naturally, I was tasked to build the department. So over the course of the next few years from there, I built multiple departments. both virtually, in person. We had the last year before we brought it back just last month. The last year that we had it in house, I had 3 brand new to the role, brand new to real estate people. And in their first year, the 3 of them together contributed 145 closings.
Oh, wow.
So 3 brand new green people, 145 closings is what they contributed that year.
That's
So
awesome.
ran the teams, and then from there, I just kind of naturally, I got a little burned out on the ISA thing. We had it going enough to where we could kind of put somebody like one of the ISAs in charge to kind of run it and let me kind of step back a little bit. So from there, I wanted to learn more of the inner workings of the team. Now, at this time, I still had zero desire to do anything front facing with customers. I wanted to hide behind the computer, behind the phones. I did not want to be seen, barely wanted to be heard. So I was like, let me learn some more about, what goes on, and maybe I might find another spot that I like more. So from there, I kind of, learned the listing side of things. So, listing management, what goes on there. I started working in operations. So for, I believe, a year and a half, I was our operations manager. I started learning marketing, learned that I really liked marketing because I'm a very creative person. So I kind of found a home there, and I did our
Spark
marketing
to
for a
want to
while.
learn these other roles, Leanne. What was the spark for you?
Just feeling that, I had done the inside sales for 4 years at the car dealership, came into real estate. I feel like I had done it for 4 years there. I was like, I want to be known for something more than just being on the phone, and honestly, talking to people every day was getting a little redundant, getting a little old.
Yeah.
So I knew that I loved real estate.
Yeah.
Once I got into it, got my feet into it, I could not see myself anywhere else.
Yeah.
There's no way anything that I knew that anything I was going to do moving forward was going to be in the real estate realm. Now, what that was going to be was still uncertain at that time. And like I said, when I started going into kind of every little role, I would find little pieces that I would like, and then I'd find things that I didn't really like, until I got to marketing and fell in love with the marketing aspect. It really just got my creative genes going. But then, I kind of jumped back in from there. I jumped kind of a lateral move to director of lead generation. It was kind of tied in with marketing. And then it brought back ISA to me. So right back here, with all that, but I was measuring our ROIs. I was doing our radio advertisements, doing all that kind of stuff. And I would notice that when I would sit down with an agent and, tell an agent, hey, instead of saying this, say this, when you did this, I would do this instead. I kept getting the same objection. It was, oh, I get what you're saying, but you've never had to go sell real estate. You've never done this.
I remember those comments.
Yeah. So please don't, like, you've never done this. So in the latter part of 2022, I decided that I was finally, and up until this time, I did not have a real estate license. So I finally decided to get licensed, went past the test, and I was like, I'm going to go do sales. I'm going to see if I like it. So I did, in 2023 was my first year in sales, and I was in it for 9 months in 2023. And I closed 33 homes.
Yeehaw.
And hated every minute of it, to be completely honest. Did it, and then ended up, met some wonderful clients that to this day I still talk to. Wonderful families that if they need to buy or sell something, I'm coming back for them, but they're the only ones I'm doing that again for.
Yeah.
Loved them, did not like sales. And so then it was kind of like, where to go from here? I've done this, I've done that. I didn't really like sales. And I think that kind of segues into the conversation that we had a couple years ago at Sand Dollar.
So that conversation at Sand Dollar.
Yeah, so I was not there for the first part of it, obviously.
No, you weren't. No, you weren't.
But it's funny because the first year that we went to the Sand Dollar Mastermind, It was a lot of just getting to know people and
Mm-hmm.
building relationships. And I feel like that first year, it's kind of, I guess, like it with everybody. You kind of go in like acting like everything's great and everybody's so happy and we're doing so great and, business is rocking and putting on that smile. And so first year, that's kind of, how we were. And then the second year we came and we kind of knew you a little bit better then. And Jim had already had one call with you about,
Uh-huh.
what do we do? I'm
Yeah.
wearing 17 hats. What do I do? And then that second year, everything kind of changed.
And what's crazy is nothing changed, right?
Yeah.
Like, here's Jim, whatever. And then, we get there the following year, Jim's in a worse mood. And I'm like, bro,
he's like, I am burning it down.
Yeah. Not even like, he was just like, he was over it. He was just over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of power in getting in rooms and going to masterminds. And obviously we have a lot of fun when we do this one, but it's also just leads to really good, real conversations, right? So really listening, kind of walk us through the reality of that time that was happening then.
So, I mean, I think it's a lot of people can probably relate to it, especially I think people that are, like husband-wife teams or have a family team. For the most part, when you're running a team, especially here in our market, we're in a very small market. We are one of the only real teams in our area. And people still don't have a real understanding of teams here. That's one of the things we battle to this day with, recruiting and attraction is people still don't really understand what a team is. But, we would constantly have people in our area that were thinking, hey, I might want to start a team. I might want to do a husband and wife thing, whatever. And they would come to us. They're like, you guys just have it all figured out. You guys are doing so good. And we'd put on the smile and be like, oh yeah, it's great. But people see the success and they see that you're doing, they don't see what goes on when the door closes.
Behind the scenes.
And what it was a lot of betrayal. We had just came off of probably the worst year of our lives for the team. We had just the final straw. We were just leaving a court case. We had to go sue a past director of ops. So we just got out of this court battle. It was just betrayal after betrayal. We were taking it home, so it was causing friction at home, just a whole mess. Mm-hmm. And we had multiple conversations up until Sand$. And Jim was like, I know you don't like it, but you're good at sales. I'm good at sales. He was like, why don't we just, shut everything down? Say, we've put millions of dollars and a decade into this and we've done great, but that's another chapter. Let's go. Mm-hmm. Let's shut it down. I'll do listings. You take the buyers. We'll hire an assistant. We may take one or two of our agent friends with us and, keep them going. And that, I think, going into Sand$ that year, that was pretty much the reality that we had accepted. That was going to be the start of our 2025.
Yeah.
And we were actually making plans and moves for that to be our 2025.
What's crazy though is that y'all made the decision that the majority would not have made, mm-hmm. right? And that gets into a lot of mom and pop. Okay. So a lot of Main Street, USA Main Street business, small business. What is it? 80, 70, 80% of companies never make it to $1 million in revenue. Mm-hmm. And you guys were already over that. So the real conversation of let's blow this up mm-hmm. right down to this, and this. That's where a lot of mom and pops turn back and go to that. And what that is and the reason that they do that is because that's more of a fun stage. Okay. That's mom and pop. It's more of a lifestyle business. It's just the ebbs and flows. And a lot of what people get into real estate and build, 80+% never build a business. Most of them build a lifestyle or a practice instead of an actual business. And that's where you guys were. You were at that turning point at that moment. And we really started talking through it. And I would love for you to give, your side of the street of this conversation, because just my viewpoint from standing over here, observing what was happening across the street with you guys, was Jim's just tired. Jim's just burnt. He's just tired. He's over people. You're over people. Y'all are just at this point. And so the move that you have to make to get to predictability, which is what we're all in strive for, takes consistent marketing and takes systems and processes. But what most people don't understand is that you got to go through the grand rapids, right, to be able to get to that point. And most people, as soon as they get into turbulent water, they just turn around and they start paddling back. And that's where you guys were. You guys were about to stick that oar in the water and make the turn and turn back and then just blow it up. We're going to stay small. We're going to stay mom and pop. We're going to have fun. We're going to raise our kids. We're going to build a good life. Talk to me there, right? Where you guys make the decision not to turn back to the just the mom and pop and actually move forward and actually build a real business for what you guys have built.
Yeah, so we were definitely in turbulent waters, I would say, in an inflatable raft that had a hole in it.
Yeah.
It was losing air very quickly. And Jim has a lot of hot air, but not enough to keep I have to crack at least a joke on him on here. It wouldn't be me in true fashion.
Always, you have to. Yes.
I said I was going to be on my best behavior today, but no. So we were in this raft that was quickly losing itself, and we were just going further and further under. We had about halfway through that year. Of course, I was just functioning as an agent, and Jim was like, okay, I'm doing this and this and this. And I believe on that first call that he did with you after our first sand dollar, you broke down, you're like, okay, well, who is the head of marketing? And Jim was like, well, yes. I am. Who is the head of training? Well, I am. Who is over this? Well, I am. And he was wearing like 6 hats. And so he came to me halfway through the year and he was like, would you like to? And I was like, no, shut the door. Like, get out. Don't ask the next word. No.
I'm not even letting you finish this sentence.
I said, no. I was like, I'm just as burnt as you are. I'm not doing it. And, it had came. I've learned a lot through the journey of watching Jim build the team and being on the team. And, I've made a lot of what I thought were friendships just to have people stab you in the back. So I was done. Like, I was like, I'm not opening myself up again to have this happen. I'm going to stay back. I'm going to play safe. And what it came down to was what we figured out was that Jim was not asking me the right question. And it came from the conversation with you. We went to Sand Dollar that year. And like I said, we pretty much went to Sand Dollar that year knowing that this would be our last year at Sand Dollar as a team owner. We were coming back and this was our, we were going to go enjoy the beach for a week. And then we were coming back and we were basically telling everybody, hey, it's been fun. It's been a great ride, but we're jumping off the raft. And if we suggest you jump to. And then you and Jim had the conversation that I wasn't a part of. And I'm glad I wasn't, because I probably would have said no again right there. If I would have known you were cooking it up. But after Sand Dollar, Jim came home and he asked the question that you told him to ask, which was, what would it have to look like? Yeah. And I believe you guys had said, he was like, I can't do this. Like, I don't want to do this. No, I don't want to do this. And you had said, well, there's one person that actually has what you need to take it off your back right now.
Yeah.
And it's Leanne. And Jim was like, instantly, he was like, I'm not asking. So I have to,
because he had it in his mind that you would have shut it down right from jump. And listen, you did right away. Like you shot it down. What was the thought process after you let it kind of marinate a little bit that was like, there might be this might work?
So when he approached it and he was like, what does it have to look like? I have not given that any thought, because in my mind it was a no. So him asking that, at first it was a no. It was a very reactionary no. And then I kind of went on about my day, and I got to thinking, I was like, well, if there was going to be a way that it would work, what would have to happen? And so I came back
Mhm.
to him. It was a few days later, and I said, okay, look, I'm willing to talk to John about it. I said, but here are my non-negotiables.
Yep.
It doesn't follow us home anymore. It doesn't envelop every bit of our personal life. Um, I'm not going to be sitting in the office every single day, because I'm not opening myself up to getting hurt again. I will do this and this and this, but you still have to own this. And so we all worked out a plan of what it was going to look like, and just kind of very quickly put it into action.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys did. And that's the beautiful thing, is you guys can execute at a high level. And I remember going through the transition and, you know, talking with Blake a little bit, and he's like, how's it going with Jim and Leanne? And we were talking through, and just, if you guys listening, I'm talking about Blake Sloan, because Blake and I run the Sand Dollar experience that we do every year. And so we were just kind of talking about it, and I was like, I mean, things are turning around. They're moving in. Hey, they're having great months. And Blake said something. He goes, yeah, but Jim's doing a massive amount of the production. And I remember going, you're right. However, we're on the path that's not going to be that way for much longer. So like talk through, because you know what, Leanne, it wasn't that bumpy in the beginning. It was like, because you were built for it, because you had put in all of the work behind the scenes, you knew it. And what I told Jim, and I remember telling Jim this, and I was like, listen, there's nobody, because you're going to have to go make a hire. That's what we came down to. You either blow this up, or you've got something here, but you're going to have to make a hire. And I said, now, pro con, I said, the biggest thing is that you'll never be able to hire somebody that's going to care more than the person that you have that's designed to be head of company. And I just remember him he just goes, he's just shaking his head. He goes, you're right. And obviously it wasn't about being right. It was just, that was right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for you stepping into there, like, kind of walk through the behind the scenes of the progression to how it was, and then it started to, like, oh my goodness, this is working. Like, what was that feeling in those conversations like?
Yeah, so in the beginning, not a lot was different, because what we quickly found out, I came in and got the title, but me and Jim are both control freaks to our core. Like, I don't know which one of us is a bigger control freak. So it was like we were a couple months in, and it's like, well, it's going good, but I'm really not doing much more than I was, like bits and pieces here and here. And I would be asked about like a login for something. I was like, I don't have that. Jim didn't share that with me. I don't have this. So we had to sit down and have a come to Jesus talk. And it's like, hey, so if I'm going to do this, you've got to butt out. You have to give it to me. You have to let me have the login for this. You've got to not do this. You've got to not make this decision and then not tell me. So it, for a couple of months there, it was fighting a little bit, not like, knockout, drag out fighting, but it was, hey, you told the team we were doing this. That's not what John and Joel and I are talking about. Or you're telling your coach this is the goal for next month. That's not the goal for next month. So it took the better part of all of last year. It really did. I mean, it took a year but I mean, Jim's been wearing the hat for 14 years. So it wasn't, with him still being in and doing production, it's not like he handed off the reins and stepped out of the company and just went and, collected his residuals. He was still in the business, and he was still front facing for our agents, because I had no desire to be up there teaching, and Jim loves teaching. So we kept him front facing with the agents. He's still leading the team meetings. He's still doing the trainings, and he was producing right alongside the agents. So it was very easy for him to fall back into the same trap and to do what he'd always done. So it really did. All of last year was a learning curve. And I feel like this year around January, we finally mastered it to where it's like, okay, you're over here and you got to stay over there or I'll fire you.
Yeah.
Because I can do that now.
Yeah.
We'll change the name and everything. No, but you've got to go over here. And so far this year, he has stayed where he is supposed to, and now it's like very seamlessly coming together.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, it's like with anything, it's a learning curve.
It does. It takes a little time to marinate. You got to let it cook, and then you got to time to let things go. And I think that was a big deal. Jim was in a lot of production last year, but now what is my number one question? Okay, where are we at for the month? What do we got coming up?
Yep, every month. How many is Jim?
How many are those of Jim? And when you tell me 0, you tell me 1, and we're having some of the best months that we've ever had in a market that is double digit down. We're up, and Jim ain't doing the production. That's like that was my okay, we got this. This is working. And, kudos to both of you, right? Kudos to you for taking the reins and really owning being head of company, but kudos to Jim to just get the hell out of the way. And that's really hard for individuals. I mean, Kinder and I went through it together in kind of the battles when he was out and I stepped into head of company. Him and I had a couple almost knock down, drag out fights to let him dude, get out of the way. I got this. And it's just the same for you.
Yeah. Well, I think for both of us too, it was the learning of, hey, this isn't my responsibility anymore. I need to focus on this. And we put Jim on something that he was completely unfamiliar with. And it's like, he has not been on a listing appointment. I believe, I may botch it, he's not been on a listed appointment all year, like a new one. The few little things that he still has going are listings that he had last year that are still kind of trickling. But he's not taking anything except for one of his investors that he works with. And then a buyer that he put under that, again, he works with solely. But it's great to see, because last year he was 30, 35, 40% of our entire production on a team with 11 other agents.
Now he's less than 10. Yeah.
Yes, and now I think he's at 6 for the entire quarter, and none on the board moving forward.
And how many did we end up closing the quarter out with?
So we, as of Q1, it's really crazy to see too. So 2025, we closed for the entire year. We were super down. We closed 214 units. So
for all of 25.
All of 25. At the end of Q1, we're at 90. So we are already 42% of everything we did last year. Our market is down 12% right now. We are almost 50% of our entire GCI from last year already in the first quarter.
And Jim's done 6 of those deals.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. But I think for us, both of us kind of figured out it wasn't that we had a fear of failure. It was that we had a fear of success. And we had been holding on to the way things were for so long, not because we were afraid to make a change and for it to fail. We were honestly afraid to make a change and for it to go right. So nobody talks about the fear of success, right? What if it works and I have to cut agents that have been with me for 4 years because they no longer fit the standards. They no longer fit what we're growing. I have to cut them. Or what if I succeed and I outgrow my friend group? What if, I have to make changes to my daily habits that I don't want to make? What if I have to get uncomfortable? And I think at the end of the day, that's what we had held on to for so long. Because, our team is mostly agents that have been with us for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. We have an agent on our team that's at year 8 this year. We didn't want to grow to a level where we had to outgrow those people.
Yeah.
And I think when you make a big change like this, that's going to naturally happen. And we had feared it for so long.
Hard. It's so hard, Leanne. And it's, it's the whole 1s and 3s concept. And where most businesses that have success get stuck and typically top out is the 1 to 3 million in revenue. And that's where you guys have been living. And now it takes new leadership, new standards, new accountability, letting go of maybe a lot of those folks that helped you get to that point but they just don't have the capabilities to push you beyond. And so it really is, it's just a process you have to go through. And a lot of people don't, they hold right there. And so that's just kind of interesting, where you guys are at. And it's the decision of, do we still hold here knowing that we're going to probably ceiling out, or do we continue to do where we've got the traction and momentum, keep hiring, keep bringing talent, keep holding standards, continue to keep growing? That's just at the crossroads of where you guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good stuff. It's amazing. Like, the commitment and the path that you guys have been on, there's definitely no fear in execution, because you guys are just, some of the best at executing. But sometimes it's just like you said, getting out of our own way and letting go of what's not serving us to be able to grab onto what is.
Yes, the thing I tell myself all the time, my imperfect action will outdo your perfect thought any day.
Yeah.
So just got to do it, like, regardless of it. I used to be the person where it had to be 100%. I would sit on projects and I would wait because it wasn't just right. And I had to learn that I've got to get it to about, my job is to get it off the ground. And it's really funny, when I took the Work in Genius and found out that I'm an ideation. That's my number one strength. I was like, it all makes sense now. Yeah. That's what I love to do. I love to implement, or not implement. I do not want to implement. I love to create ideas and analyze them. I'm an ID. So learning that too kind of helped. But I had to learn, okay, my job is to get it started. And then to inspire other people to want to step up and to help me put it into place, to help me finish it, and to help me keep it going. And through the last year, I've found those people. I've found the person, I found my galvanizer that's going to rah the team and get it going. I've found my ETs, my tools that are going to move it out. And it's been a great journey to watch them step up as well.
Yeah. And I mean, you summed it all up there in the last, 3 or 4 minutes. Anybody listening in, I mean, the whole secret sauce is right there. And so, for you, I mean, that's why you're perfectly built to be head of this company, and you're doing it at an extremely high level. And, I'm proud of you guys. Y'all should be proud of yourselves. And it's really cool to see the transformation in a relatively short period of time. If you really sit back and think about the time that it took for us to get here, was not that long. It was not that long. No. So you guys did cover a lot of ground in a hurry.
Yep. You're a large part of it. So we thank you for that.
Yeah. You guys are just incredible students. I will put it that way. You're some of the best. So, Leaanne, I appreciate you really, sharing, behind the scenes of really what it takes to grow and evolve into that, the whole agent to CEO concept and evolution. You have lived it. And, for any of you guys listening in, thank you for listening to today's episode. Thank you to Leaanne. If you guys are not connected with Leaanne, connected with Jim, do so, and just, watch at how they are executing on a world class, what you guys are doing. And it really is awesome to see. And thank you for, sharing behind the scenes. And, for you guys listening in, what are you going to do with it, right? If nothing changes, nothing changes. And listen, if you guys want to deep dive and really fully step into that agent to CEO, into that CEO seat, you can go to sevenfigurecall.com, book your call. And until next time, we are going to just keep making it happen. Leaanne, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry Morgan was so rude.
Next time, maybe you'll have a cigar and a drink with us next time.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Awesome. Leaanne, thank you. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. See ya.